Congratulations to the Florida State Seminoles on their live championship for 2023. Hold your heads high. Only the worthiest of champions can take home the live championship.
The following segments are a presentation of Smacking Off the podcast.
以下片段是 Smacking Off 播客的演示。
And now, Smacking Off the podcast.
Six contributors not queued up yesterday. Bowers, Mims, Smale Mondin, Rara Thomas, Julian Humphrey, and Kristen Miller. All but Miller were known to be, I know I'm doing air quotes here, dealing with injuries. Miller's a redshirt freshman who must have been a late injury as well. But 6 guys versus 24 guys, that's a sizable difference.
Especially when, on paper, there's already a difference, even if everybody suits up for both sides. There's already a difference.
Right. And I mean, Georgia and Kirby have recruited at a high level for so many years in a row that there's quality depth. Florida State's, still, Norvell's still kind of just developing that program. I think they were ahead of schedule this year.
Yeah, definitely.
But he doesn't have the depth that Kirby has.
In most seasons, FSU probably gets in.
Yeah. No,
it was an extraordinary season to have that many teams hanging around at the gate, right to the end.
I think we had talked about, this was like we had talked many years ago about chaos theory, and ironically, the last year of the 4 team, we get chaos theory. Yeah.
At a point when nobody needs to sell an expanded playoff, anyways.
Right. Yeah. I mean.
So, but this would have been great, and when did they in 2019? This would have been great.
Yes,
because it would have probably accelerated this, and we probably would have had a playoff this year. An expanded playoff.
Right? Yeah, that's what we wanted. We wanted it for so long, and when we finally get it, it's just a year too late. Because I think really what the game should had Florida State not opted out, and we haven't, they're in. Maybe they win a game at home and then they lose later on. Who knows? But the other thing it shows is Georgia's still probably one of the 4 best teams in the country.
Yeah, but it's like there's no way to totally get out of the whole political realm of this.
Right.
You want to talk about fans from other conferences, heads exploding. You try putting Alabama and Georgia in this year. There would have been, and then again, what kind of weird look would it have been for Alabama to beat Georgia, have the same record, and Georgia to go in and Alabama to stay home? You couldn't do that either. I
wasn't saying Alabama needed to stay. I mean, we're talking about
I'm just saying their options were so limited when it comes to with 2 SEC teams.
Oh, the committees, absolutely, because you're right. The outcry would have been nuts. But, I mean, what if – and we've been watching the Big Ten struggle mightily so far in bowl season. What if Alabama blows out Michigan tomorrow in the Rose Bowl? Then, then we'd really say – Georgia should have probably been in. And the Big Ten this year was just not a good conference.
I think you'll hear a little bit of that, but I think what you're really going to hear, if that happens, is you're going to say, thank God this would not happen in 24. Georgia would have been in. Alabama would have been in.
Yeah, I think we're all excited for 24, because I think in a common sense kind of theory, we have, the heartburn for leaving a 13-0 team this year was high amongst many kind of what we'll call casual college football fans. I think those of us, yourself, myself, and others, that really, we knew Alabama was certainly a better team than Florida State by the end of the conference championship weekend. But you'll have less heartache next year from the casual fan who likes to make the most noise on, say, a 3-loss team doesn't get in. They're 13, not 12. Right. Or even a 2-loss team.
I think where you're going to have that buffer zone, you're going to have that 12 through 8 area where people are going to feel like those teams are lucky to be in anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And so by the time you get to the 13th, it's like, well, you didn't win the lottery this time.
Yeah. Try again next year, the following. Yeah. You're sorry.
I think 8 teams would have been fine. With 12 teams though, I don't know if we're going to see any changes for a while. What do you think?
I agree with you. I don't anticipate a lot of change from the 12 for quite some time, unless once we get past these current television deals that the conferences are on, if there's more, shifting and realignment and expansion and whatnot. But other than that, I think you're right. I think when we get to 12, I think we're going to be there for quite some time. And I think that's good. I think
I do too.
All the change that we've been going through for the last, 15, 20 years? 20 years. Say 20 years. We'll say 20 years issue. Because the Big East kind of started to crumble in 2003. So that's 20 years ago, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm. We're still going to have the issue with the bowls not having the relevance that they used to, the ones that are not in the playoffs. And I think there's an answer for that. I think that college basketball shows you what the answer is maybe we have multiple tournaments. All of them don't end up with a national championship. But I think the tournament thing probably inspires teams and fans to pay more attention.
Sure. And frankly, look, the number of bowl games is 43. That's just...
Well, every year they're having to put in teams with below 500 records.
Yeah, we saw one this. I think Minnesota won theirs, and they were 5-7 when they went.
Yep.
Support Smacking Off by commenting on, liking, and sharing our videos. Stay right where you are. More Smacking Off is headed your way.
VidGo, streaming made easy. In the fast lane of streaming, VidGo offers the best live TV experience, period. Quick sign up, great features, and the widest selection of live sports, news and shows. All with no contracts and no hidden fees. It's never been easier to gain unparalleled access to virtually everything, wherever you are, for an unbelievably low price. Pay just $20 for the first month on any qualifying VidGo plan. Follow the Smacking Off VidGo affiliate link in the description for the best prices available.
Fine. Humans are noisy. They thrive on chaos. They like to make things. It gives them meaning. They do it over and over and over again until they shut down. Humans are fueled by inspiration. Inspiration and something called tacos. Change makes them nervous, but embracing it changes everything. Yeah. Imagine that.
When all the talk should be on college football, we dropped the ball with a very lackluster day, for the casual fan that might want it. why should I watch this? It's 63-3. That's what I heard somebody say at the bar yesterday. They go, why is this Georgia Force? It's 63-3.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what else? What else do you want on the TV? First and foremost, there wasn't much else on. But
those sponsors love that shit, don't they?
They do. Yeah, I think eventually they changed. I think there was a hockey game they might have put on, but yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for the game, for college football as a whole, that this time of year when it is sort of our time to shine, the bowl games just haven't shined. Like, I mean, my team Notre Dame the other day, I didn't want to see us just. We were up 24-0 on Oregon State, and I felt bad for Oregon State. They didn't have their coach. They have their first or second string quarterback. They're missing a lot of other guys. That wasn't enjoyable. I wanted a competitive football game. It's nice to get an easy win, but at the same time,
before we jump over to the Sugar Bowl, which I think is the more intriguing of the two games.
I think to put a bow on the Rose Bowl, I'm excited to go. I expect Alabama to win. I don't think Michigan's seen a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, let alone an offense.
So just real quick, what do you think that Michigan? I mean, in the weird, I don't know if it's weird. I mean, Michigan is definitely a good team, and what would Michigan have to do to?
They're going to have to. They have to be able to run the football to beat Alabama. They cannot get behind. Help me out here, Doug. Down in distance, when Michigan has the football, they have to stay on schedule. Like, if they lose yards on a play, they get penalties, they're in trouble because I do not trust JJ McCarthy against the Alabama secondary. I simply don't. Now, if he goes out and he throws the ball and throws for 300, that will shock the hell out of me. But I do not see that happening one bit. I think he's a liability for them. We saw it last year in the TCU game. He hasn't really changed his stripes much. He didn't impress me in the Penn State game or the Ohio State game. And those were really the only games Michigan played this year because we know they didn't, play anybody non-conference in the rest of the Big Ten. Look at the Big Ten West. It was disgusting. So this is going to be the first really good secondary that he's going to play. And probably you could either pick Alabama or Georgia, probably one of the two best secondaries in the country. I don't think J.J. McCarthy, along with those wide receivers, those guys don't impress me very much either, can go out and win the game by themselves. So Michigan's going to have to run the ball and stay ahead of schedule and also keep that high-powered Alabama offense off the field because, as we saw in some of the last 3 or 4 games this season, like Jalen Milroe can do it. He can run it. He can throw it. The way that offense has evolved to be just lethal. I don't think Michigan has the depth to stay out there and chase Milroe for a lot of that game. So they're going to have to run the ball, keep their defense off the field and rested because when they're on the field, they're going to be chasing Milroe and chasing all those guys, Burton. I just don't see it. I don't see how Michigan wins this game. If they do, I'll be shocked. I think it's going to be Alabama probably 38-23, something like that.
Oh, we're joined with Dr. Balls. Dr. Balls, what do you think about this one?
Oh,
there he is. You got a late wake-up call.
I know. I'm sorry I was late on that. I'm with
or
Sean on it. Actually, I believe that they've been mercilessly dominate their opponents at the line of scrimmage, and it's not going to happen for them this time, right? And then they're going to be left looking for answers. I'm talking about Michigan, of course, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to be left looking for answers of what to do when they don't dominate the line of scrimmage. They might initially match Alabama at the line of scrimmage, but I think as, of course, the game goes on, Alabama's liable to ground them into powder. And the quarterback is not the answer to that, right? I just believe the safeties for Alabama, especially, what is it, Woods, number 7?
Downs.
That's right. Downs, number 7. I believe he's just going to, when they run to his side, it's just going to be a waste of time. And I just don't think that they have played a team that physical all year. And then you got the X factor of Milroe.
Right? Yeah, they have not seen a quarterback like Jalen Milroe at all in the Big Ten. Not at all.
Right. But McCarthy, I don't think he's good enough to win the game on his own.
Well, we saw it last year against TCU when the chips were down. What do you have, 2 pick sixes last year?
Yes,
And
it is.
TCU's secondary not even close to the talent that Alabama has. I mean, Downs, Kool-Aid McKinstry, getting the other guy's name, but yeah, I mean, that secondary is lethal, and I think they're going to pounce on McCarthy. I think it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, it's going to be a real problem. And then eventually, though, any way it goes, I believe Alabama wears them down. Now, is Michigan capable of doing that? I think they'll look like they're capable in the first quarter, but eventually the weight will take over.
Yeah, I mean, the way I've heard, so Michigan, and I've heard this before, and I kind of agree with it. Michigan plays a style of football that's similar to Georgia, except they don't play it as well as Georgia, and they don't have the athletes that Georgia has. So if Alabama can beat Georgia on a neutral field for the SEC championship game, they're going to play a B- Georgia in Michigan. Also, I racked my brain trying to figure out a way Michigan wins it. The only way they win this game is if they keep the ball on the ground and somehow can win the line of scrimmage and run the ball all game long. And they're playing this game in a phone booth, like a 1970s Rose Bowl, and it's 17-10. And I just don't.
Yeah, they've got to dictate the pace of the game. If Alabama dictates the pace of the game, Michigan's doomed.
Yeah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap because Alabama's playing modern football, and Harbaugh is trying to play, late 70s through mid 80s football, and it's not going to work because for once he can't be the bully. He can bully Iowa, he can bully Minnesota, or Northwestern. He's not going to bully Alabama. He didn't bully Georgia, and it's a wrap.
Yep.
I agree.
How about this Washington Texas Sugar Bowl?
To me, this is the game. This game, I think, is going to be more exciting. To be honest with you, because of the contrasting styles of the two teams. Bob, what do you think?
Oh, I love the whole idea of it because, as we know, Texas is extremely physical on the line of scrimmage. They have some of the best linemen in the country, right? But Penix has one of the quickest releases of any quarterback that's in the NCAA right now, and I believe you scheme for Texas with lots of screens and like 5 wide receiver sets and short crosses and stuff like that. And so it's going to be high scoring because Texas is good as well on both sides of the line. And they're going to try to run the ball, and they're going to get lots of play action off from it. Their quarterback is really good. But Penix is the X factor to me, man. I believe if Washington gets the ball last, they win. It could be a 52-50 game.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be, you want to talk about the irresistible force against the immovable object. You have this highly rated Texas defensive line, which is probably the best defensive line in the country, going against the Washington O-line, which just recently won the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line.
Yeah. And we talked about that on the podcast the other night. Everybody was blowing that off when Bruce tried to tell it, but he said, well, Landon kept saying, well, how many guys are they going to send to the NFL? I think, hell, they'll send 2 this year, won't they?
I think they're going to send 2 of those offensive linemen to the NFL. Now, are they first round? Maybe, maybe not. They might be second or third round, but they're still pretty big boys, and they've done their job so far this year as a collective unit.
Yeah.
And I think but for 1 or 2 games, they've started all those games together. And like you said, Penix has a fast release. And what kind of makes me nervous for Texas is Texas's secondary. I was reading somewhere, it's like the 95th ranked secondary in the country.
Damn.
That's not good. And
not against Washington for sure.
I would say Washington's got all 3 of those stud wide receivers. They're playing in this game, So, and we saw this last year. I hate to say last year was a precursor, because the teams are a little bit different. Washington just beat Texas in the Alamo Bowl last year. And Penix played in that game. I think Quinn Ewers played in that game for Texas. So
it's not like that. It's not like this is hard to imagine.
No. I think I agreed with the kid. I think he was the defensive end for Washington, saying, that everyone's thinking we're underdogs or we're this. I think they're what are they 4.5 points right now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this game should be a toss-up, a coin flip. Yeah, right now it's Texas -4. I personally think Washington's going to win this game.
I think the Northeastern sports writers strike again on this with their lack of knowledge about what happened in the Pac-12. Right? They didn't stay up late because a lot of those games were monumental in the Pac-12, and Washington kept coming back no matter what in the big games they played against real competition. And I think Oregon and Texas are really close. It's as far as how they play and what
I agree.
level of talent.
So yeah, this one's interesting, and I mean Texas does have a great defensive line, but it really depends. Are they going to be able to put pressure on Penix and change his whole rhythm? And I don't know. I don't know that they can, because Washington has played good defenses already this year. Washington actually has one of the best strength of schedules in the playoffs.
And they can scheme. They can scheme against the pass rush too, with lots of quick stuff. And I think that's probably what they're going to do. I think
now, as an Alabama fan, Bruce asked me the other day, who would you rather see? If Alabama beats Michigan, who would you rather see in the championship game? And I mean, Texas, because I'm a firm believer that the loser in a game has an edge in the rematch.
Yes, yeah, and also, I mean, I think that would bring the season full circle for Alabama. You know, you like, oh yeah, we lost week, whatever that was, week 2, I think it was, week 3. Yep. And then, as we've seen, Alabama just got better and better and better and better, and then that would kind of close the loop and bring the season full circle.
Pretty much all centered around quarterback play, because that's what Alabama. I mean, Milroe in the early games, he didn't look the part. He wasn't making plays.
I also think the defense came around later in the year versus right at the take out the South Florida game where they pitched a shutout because, well, it's South Florida. But I don't think the Bama defense gives up 34 to Texas this time of year versus early in the season like that. Defenses are still kind of figuring it out, so to speak.
And the offensive line improved at Alabama as well, because that was one of the main problems in the Texas games. They were just overwhelming the offensive line, and they've improved the offensive line. Now, do I think that the Alabama's offensive line matches Texas's defensive line? I don't know if that's changed, but they've certainly got a lot better, and they can scheme to make Milroe to take advantage of what he can do, which is a lot. I mean, it's a broken play is what you want if you're Alabama.
I mean, all you got to know is for Texas is if they can lose to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma definitely not a great team this year. If they can lose to Oklahoma, they're beatable.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that's, as an Alabama fan, that's definitely what I would be thinking.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and the style, the way that OU beat him, Gabriel, he's not as as good as Milroe, but he plays as kind of a similar style, right? And that really and Penix can move a little bit. He can't move like Milroe, but he can move a little bit. That could frustrate Texas. And
what's the advantage for the loser when you have a rematch like this? And I've always looked at it like this: like the loser, they know what they need to change. The winner does not know what changes they need to make.
Right.
From the first game plan.
But they also know where they dominate too. They know where they're strong at, and they can emphasize that. And then you could look back at the film and you could say, well, we ran this and it should have worked, but it didn't work. Why didn't it work? And it's assignment issues, stuff like that. And you can come back to those plays in the game. Right.
So, Sean, you got Washington beating Texas.
Yeah, I like Washington over Texas in that game. I mean, the only thing that's going to be a challenge, it's going to be another, road game for Washington. The Texas people will be going over to New Orleans a lot easier than, flying in from Seattle to New Orleans per se. I think there'll be a decent Washington contingent, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Superdome is 70-30 burnt orange.
Yeah.
Robert, you got Washington here too?
Yeah, I've got Washington there. I like Washington in that game. Phoenix ran the option. Phoenix ran the option at Indiana. I don't know if y'all remember that.
I do. Yeah, he had that play that should have been a 2-pointer to beat Penn State, and I don't think they counted it or something.
Yeah,
but he's got some legs. He can move.
Yes, he's a little bit of an X factor, but he's learned that he's better off dealing the football, and I think they're going to scheme it to where he can do that fast.
I'm torn in this one. I'm torn between wanting that rematch with Texas and pulling for Bruce Martinez.
Well, look at the other script here, Doug. The other script is that the Pac-12 was horribly mismanaged, right? And they and in their last year, they overhyped the season to begin with, but it turned out that it was all true. It was a great conference in the end, and now the last conference champion of the Pac-12 is in the CFP. If the Pac-12, if Washington wins the whole CFP, it'll be a horrible indictment on where money over football, in my opinion, right? And it'll be the thing for those that want to stay righteous, like Dabo Sweetie, right? It'll be redemption for them, right? That all this money and all this mismanagement, still a conference that couldn't cut the mustard would win the Natty, and I'd love to see Washington rub it in all their faces.
Any final thoughts on these games, guys?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I'm hoping they're good. We need them to be good after yesterday. I mean,
absolutely.
There's a couple of games that are right before them. I don't know if they're. I mean, Tennessee, Iowa, do anything for you? Wisconsin, LSU.
Well, Mac Brooks told me I've never congratulated her on a big win, and I was like, I've never seen Iowa have a big win. But we have all kind of big wins. I said the wins you're talking about don't register as big wins in my mind.
I would,
and beating Tennessee is not a big win either. But
yeah,
I'll have to go out of my way to congratulate her if Iowa can pull this one off. They definitely got a good defense. I don't know what to think about Tennessee, Iowa.
You are now watching or listening to Smacking Off the Podcast. If you love it, tell your friends about it. If you hate it, share it with your enemies.
Open up your eyes, you're about to see a new thing. Open up your eyes, you're about to see a new thing. Open up your eyes, you're about to see a new thing. I got it. You want it, I can read you like a mood ring. Everybody want a new thing.
I feel like we see this game a lot, don't we? I feel like
Tennessee's quarterback ain't going to play, right?
It's the freshman, I think, the highly recruited Nico Leva.
Yeah. So.
And Iowa's got a great I wouldn't be surprised if Iowa wins that game.
No, I like Iowa 12-10.
The under comes in, yeah. And then I expect LSU to thrash Wisconsin. I don't know how they paired those two in whatever the new name for what used to be the Outback Bowl.
That's one that we've seen a few times too, isn't it?
Yeah, the only question is I don't think Daniels is playing. Or is he? If he is, then it's just could be an LSU route. If he's not, maybe Wisconsin hangs for a quarter and a half. But LSU is vastly superior to Wisconsin.
I agree. If Daniels is playing, then LSU wins because I don't think they've seen anything like that.
No, Wisconsin's coming out of the Big Ten West. Yeah, no, they have not seen anything like that. So and then you have Oregon playing Liberty. I actually kind of think that might be an interesting game, Oregon against Liberty. Because Liberty is going to play just hair on fire because no one's giving them a chance.
Did Liberty ever lose a game?
No, they're unbeaten. They're 13-0. Yeah, we might have a UCF situation.
I think I must be thinking of James Madison. I think James Madison was undefeated for a while, and they ended up dropping one. But
Yeah, they lost to App State in that overtime game.
okay, so we've got that is an intriguing game because Liberty will definitely be excited to be there. How many Oregon opt-outs are we dealing with?
I mean, Oregon doesn't have that many opt-outs because, I mean, if they did, the line would be a lot closer. But right now, they're a 17-point favorite in the Fiesta Bowl. That's a big number.
It is a big number. I think taking Liberty in the points is probably a good bet.
Yeah.
Now, how interesting is it that Hugh Freeze coached Liberty last year? The coach of Liberty now is the guy that coached Coastal Carolina to a great season last year. So the coach of Liberty is what going into this game is like 24-1 over the last 2 years.
Yeah. Liberty's. I mean, they're putting a nice little program together there in Virginia.
So
I mean, any game like this, I'm definitely going to have to pull for Liberty because that. That would be fucking cool as shit.
14-0 Liberty, they're going to be hollering, we want whoever wins the playoff.
And I think Madden will probably go ahead and declare them national champions.
Now, in a 12-team CFP, Liberty would have made the CFP if there's.
I think they have the stipulation still in there that one group of five, the highest ranked group of five, gets in. They're going to be good.
And Tim Bailey's Oklahoma Sooners, which was sitting at 12, would be the odd team out.
Yeah, he'd be online talking about how a sticking group of five team was in over the Sooners, and how it was unfair.
Right.
We all surmised that Arizona was going to give them a game, and I think
I thought they'd give them a game. I just thought Oklahoma would probably just have too much for Arizona, but by the time we got into the fourth quarter.
I didn't think so because most of Arizona's team did not opt out, and it was kind of a senior-laden group. And you had, the true freshman quarterback for Oklahoma playing, and he hadn't really played much this year. I knew he was going to make some mistakes, and he certainly did. I mean, they had 6 turnovers in that. I mean, you look at the box score. OU dominated that game. First downs, total yards, rushing yards, passing yards.
Yeah.
But 6 turnovers, it's hard for any team to overcome, say, 3 turnovers. But double that, I mean, and they were crucial.
I used to know the formula on this, but like 1 turnover reduces your chances of winning by so much. 2 turnovers, it doubles that chance of
like
losing.
the percentage just keeps going higher and higher and higher.
Now did Arizona, did they play turnover free?
I think they had 1 at most, maybe 2.
Okay. So Oklahoma was -4 in turnovers. Nearly impossible to lose to win in that circumstance.
Let me see here. Let me just check real quick. Team stats, turnovers. Arizona had 1. I was right. It was just 1. It was an interception.
That's -5. That is a hell of a wall to get over. And it don't matter. It don't matter who you're playing.
And OU had double the amount of penalties as well. So penalties and turnovers. We always talk about that, which shows you, that's a lack of discipline. Which, Venables got better this year. They're 10-3 versus what were they last year? 6-6. So they're better. But they're not. They're definitely not to where I think the OU fan base thinks they are. And I think it's going to be a rough first year for them in the SEC next year. And that's a hellacious schedule they got.
Oh yeah, it's tough. And they
looking through all the schedules, it's like nothing I've ever seen.
Florida probably has the most insane schedule next year. Florida will be lucky to win 4 games. I mean, looking at their schedule.
Yep.
I mean, next
Billy will be out next year then.
I would say, that might be the end of Sunbelt Billy. But I mean, next year it's like a whole new world in college football with now the kind of the super conferences coming into play, the 12-team playoff. I mean, and then these schedules. I think next year is going to be an insanely fun year that we haven't had for quite some time.
It's going to be the most competitive in a long time. I mean, the SEC looks like the NFC East in 1990. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you get Texas, Oklahoma, Bama, Tennessee, Georgia. I mean, even if Auburn can somehow figure some things out, Ole Miss is good. I mean, that's a murderer's row that you're going to have to go through. And then some of the
Missouri.
schools, Missouri. Forgot about Missouri, Kentucky. Yeah, I mean, Kentucky, you guys did everything you could to give that game away to Clemson. You should have won that game. You played them even for basically 50 minutes, and then the last 10 minutes, things kind of went sideways for you.
They had a bad
really, really the last 5 minutes, because it seemed like that last drive of Clemson's, they went back. It was like a yo-yo. They went forward a little bit, and they went backward.
There was a huge mistake by the defensive coordinator on the last drive. We had them 3rd and 18 at like the 40-something, and they played prevent defense. Man, I can't understand it to this day, right? And he shouldn't have played prevent because they was proving they could move the ball in our zones easily. So they should have kept blitzing because they had him running around like a wild dog. They should have blitzed on that 3rd and 18. I believe they would have got a turnover.
I hate that prevent, man, when you drop 8, because somebody always finds a little soft spot in that zone. If you got a quarterback that can rifle it in there, you're a cooked goose.
Yeah.
But I thought Kentucky had that game as they're going to win, but old Dabo Sweeney must have made a prayer or something, because they squeaked it out there at the end.
Hats off to him for it was a tough game for both teams, and the hats off to him for winning.
That's as I think about it, that's probably been the best game of the bowl season.
Oh yeah, the second half there was like 4 or 5 lead changes. There were huge bombs. I mean, big plays. There were lots of turnovers. 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter total, right?
Very few guys opted out from either team. That I think, as I look, that was probably the best game of bowl season so far. I could be wrong. I'll have to relook at all the games again, but I think that might have been it.
I think it was. Based on what I've seen.
Until we see the CFP, and I think Texas Washington is going to be that game. Yeah. But as I look, I think that was the best game so far of bowl season.
Way better than FSU and Georgia. Of course, we all expected that, but there was so many people that was delusional that they just had to get shown what it was all about. There's still, according to Shannon, there's people still rejecting that, making excuses after what happened. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, no, I think it's all it is now. The people that are still, it's pain in their own pride, that they were wrong and they were proven wrong. As Doug and I said before you jumped on, Bob, if Florida State doesn't have any of their guys opt out, and I'll even say Jordan Travis's leg magically heals overnight. Yeah. They got everybody. Georgia's got everybody. Georgia's still winning that game by 14 or 17 points.
Yeah.
They're that much better. They're that much more talented. They're that much. It's depth, and Norvell doesn't have the depth there yet. I mean, it took. We're all old enough to remember. It took Bobby Bowden a long time to get his Florida State teams the depth necessary to hang with the big dogs later in his tenure at Florida State. It didn't happen, when he first got there. I think it was 78, 77, 78, whatever it was. Doug would probably know the year. But it took him a long time to build that depth and be able to compete. Norvell's only been there, help me, 3-4 years?
Yeah.
So I think Florida State got.
They can say what they want, and also if the culture of that program was that good, all these guys would have hung around and said, "We're going to play for the pride of our university," and we got snubbed. Let's go out and show them and beat a good Georgia team. No, So I don't have any sympathy for Florida State. I expected Georgia to beat them. I didn't expect them to beat them as bad as they did, and they were beating them that bad in the second half with not even Georgia starters. I think I saw Will Muschamp's kid in the game for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So, It's anybody else that's still barking about Florida State. That's just foolish pride, and they got pain in their heart, and they just can't come to grips with reality.
Hell yeah.
So, hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you couldn't hear me a second ago.
But I'm excited for the CFP. We got a couple more games, and then we got to wind down football, and we'll be full speed ahead in basketball, man.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. It's starting to rock right now. It's getting ready to come into its own. We'll have plenty to talk about, Sean.
All right, so Dr. Ball's all the way through basketball season, and then who knows what we'll do when that's over. We'll start covering golf, won't we, Sean?
Yeah.
Sean?
We will. He just don't know it. He must have muted himself by accident.
No, he's not muted.
He loves golf. Oh
no, he's out. Well, I think we've said enough, and this will air right before the game. So,
all righty. I'm sorry I was late, Doug. I kept hearing something dinging, and I'm like, oh, what the hell?
Doug,
Sean,
you didn't lose me too much there, did you?
No. Have a safe flight, and hope you enjoy the game. And if you're pulling for Alabama, I really hope you enjoy the game.
I'm definitely pulling for Alabama. I want the Tide to roll. Like I said, 38-20, 23, somewhere in thereabouts. And when I say Michigan gets 20, 23, that's kind of garbage time late. I think it's mostly 38-10 entering the fourth quarter. And then, they get a garbage time touchdown, maybe even a field goal. And it's 38-20, 30-23, and Bama's ready to. They're already thinking about, whether they're playing Texas or Washington next week. I think the game is in Houston, if memory serves. I think it's down at NRG Stadium, the home of the Texans. Let me make sure that's correct for the audience here. It is. Yes, that's correct. Houston Energy Stadium. So the tickets are still available, though. Not cheap right now. Not cheap.
Yeah. Just a side note before we go, I seen that Washington and Texas tickets had dropped a lot. That you could actually get tickets for like $200.
Damn.
So right now, Sugar Bowl. If you want to just get in the building. Just get in a building and have a seat. I'll say that. Not standing room only.
Right.
$146. That's manageable. That is very manageable.
Yes.
So
the Alabama tickets are still holding. The Alabama Michigan tickets are.
Oh yeah.
I mean, all ticket prices are down. To be honest.
No, the Michigan Alabama game. I'll just I got mine for less than they are now, barely. But
what are they now? Are they running about $1,000?
They're just to get into the Rose Bowl right now will cost you about $500.
Damn.
To get a good seat, you're talking about $1,200 to $1,500.
Damn.
Yeah. So it's the Rose Bowl is with this matchup, with it being a semifinal game in the iconic venue that is the Rose Bowl. Yeah, I mean, I knew those. Like, I got in early on that and bit the bullet. These are only going to go up from where they are now. So just take the punishment and get a good seat.
Hell yeah.
Well, Sean, I hope you have a safe flight. So
thank you so much. You gentlemen enjoy the games, and I'm sure we'll reconvene afterwards and discuss what happened.
Hell yeah.
Yep. All right. Talk to y'all later.
Later.
Thank you for supporting Smacking Off the podcast on the X's and O's network. Be sure to keep up with our scheduled live casts and other presentations on Facebook at Smackologists or at Smacking Off, and on our YouTube channel at Smacking Off the Podcast.